Okay, we are starting a new topic which is about parking studies, and this is taken from chapter 13 of the traffic engineering book. So, not the same book which we have been using. So, why parking studies are important? Whenever you take a trip, you need parking space at both ends of your trip. From the house when you come out, and when you reach the destination, you need the parking at both ends. Okay, and the parking availability depends upon what type of land use you have, how much is the density, population density in the area, and so on and so forth. So, car trips have are very dependent upon the parking availability. Okay, and you know the obvious reason, as I already mentioned, you need the parking at both ends. And for vehicle owners, then the majority of the time, maybe 23, 22 hours of the day, the car is in the parking lot. Okay, so that's why we need to make sure that people have these parking facilities available, and that's why we need to do the parking studies. Uh, the what is the uh, other what are the other factors which you need to keep in mind? uh, Firstly, there are many activity centers like shopping malls and schools and hospitals whose usage or whose clientele may or it definitely depends upon the parking supply they have. You may not go to one bank, and you may prefer to go to another bank because they have a bigger parking area. You don't have any parking issues in that area, and you also need to keep in mind that parking demand needs to be balanced with the provision of public transport facilities. When you provide enough and good quality public transport facilities, then the parking demand will decrease. So it's not like we need parking, we should just focus on providing more parking. You have to also keep in mind that this provision of parking spaces will have economic consequences as well as environmental consequences. People will take more time to find the parking space. They will need their car to go from one place to the other, consuming fuel, noise pollution, air pollution. So you need to keep all these things in mind. So it may not seem very obvious, but parking has a lot of impact on public transport as well as environment and economy. Okay, so you need to find out how much parking demand you need. Okay, and you have to keep in mind what type of development you are considering, like what is the land use, what type of activity will be served through this parking area. Okay, and where you will place the parking area. Will it be a multi-story parking area, basement, on the road, beside the road, what? Okay, and in many cases, parking demand can be taken from regulations. So we call them zoning regulations. So zoning regulations are applied in different countries in each area, and whenever you start construction for a new facility, whether it is housing or commercial or industrial or office, you need to get the approval from the local municipality, and the local municipality will look at the proposed design and the planning of your facility, and they will check if you are providing enough parking spaces or not. Okay, so in a house they have a standard. You have to, if you are building a house of this much area, you need to have these many parking spaces. Same thing for the store, same thing for the mall. In some cases you may have combined parking, then they will check, so you have uh, enough space in the combined area to incorporate your new facility or not. So how do we come up with the demand? You need to keep in mind the type and size of land use. Already mentioned, it could be commercial, residential, and so on and so forth. So certain land uses need more demand or have more demand than the others. For example, residential have the lower demand as compared to office building or commercial buildings. And you also need to keep in mind the size of the land use. So a villa will have less demand as compared to a multi-story apartment building. So this is because of the size. The type is same. The density of the area, the population density in the area, is the area congested or congested with people? I mean, okay. And the thing which I already mentioned, the quality and quantity of public transport access in that area. More access, better quality of public transport will decrease the parking demand. For parking generation, there's a manual which is considered worldwide as a very authentic source of calculating the number of parking spaces, which is called as ITE parking generation rates. Okay, ITE stands for Institute of Transportation Engineers, and they have been researching on this topic for quite a long time, and they have provided their rates on the basis of different types and sizes of the land uses. So they publish or they update their rates and publish a new manual. The last one which I have is from 2019. Maybe they published another one after that. I'm not aware of that. So this manual gives you maximum number of parking spaces. So maximum is usually in the peak hour according to the facility you have. And this manual contains the generation rates for 106 different types of land uses. So you can imagine how much research has gone into this preparing this manual. This is the main reason that it is considered as a standard worldwide because of so much work they have done. Okay, so they have gone into details of a single land use as well. So all housing land uses are not considered the same. Okay, like already mentioned, it could be a villa, it could be a multi-story apartment, and so on and so forth. So they have gone in so much detail, and this is why they are considered acceptable all around the world. This is uh, uh, an example of IT generation rates. You can see the land use. So even residential, you can see there are 4 different items. Okay, then in retail they have so many items, and they have mentioned for which type of area they have taken the rates on which day. Okay, in some cases you will find even the time as well, what time. So usually they give 2 things: the average rate per unit. So the unit depends upon what type of land use you have. For housing it is per unit, for example. For retail it is per unit area. Okay, so you have 2 options. You can take the rate multiplied by the units. So if I have 10 housing units, 1.83 multiplied by 10. Okay, so this is one option. Another more accurate option is to use the equation. So in the equation the unit will be put as x. So number of units will be x here. So equation is considered more accurate provided that it has the accuracy, like they are claiming that the equation is accurate. Okay, so then it will be considered more accurate than the average rate. So they have mentioned how accurate is the equation using R square. We've already used R square in lecture 1 as well. So this equation is like covering 69% of the accuracy. This equation covered 95% of the accuracy, and so on and so forth. And how many studies they have done to get this equation and average rate is mentioned here. So you can see 6 studies for the first case, 12 for the second, 40 for the third. Okay, so they are, you can see here, it's more than 50 only for residential land use. So the number of studies which they have done, and this is what I was talking about earlier, the amount of work which they have done makes it suitable. In some cases they found that okay, the equation is not suitable or we cannot develop it, so it's not available here. But even in the case if it is available, you can have a look at the accuracy and decide whether you want to use this or not. And in case you think that we should have our own rates and ITE is US based, so we should not use it even if it is for the same land use. You can find out your own generation rates. We are doing a research work in for Bahrain where we are trying to find out the parking generation rates for fast food restaurants, and there are trip rates available for Abu Dhabi and Dubai and Saudi Arabia in this region. Okay, and obviously other countries have their own generation rates and equations. Okay, so this is for some other land uses, and here they are using the term GFA. GFA stands for gross floor area, and there's another term which is called as gross land area. So floor area is the built-up area with the roof and the construction going on, and the land area covers the open spaces as well. Then they are also using the term school population. So for schools, it could be per unit student, per unit employee, per unit visitor. So when they say school population, it includes all of them: employees, students, and visitors, all of them. Okay, if you are considering it for restaurants, then these are the rates, and you can see this given for different areas and days. Okay, and then the restaurants can be different types of restaurants. Quality restaurants are most expensive one. Okay, and we have family restaurants, fast food restaurants. The explanation is given here. Okay, but the highest quality is quality restaurant, and you have family restaurants which are cheaper, and usually they have the chains, and the fast food also chains. Okay, but fast food is fast food. You have burgers and sandwiches and so on. Okay, let's say we have a high-rise apartment building with 600 units. What is the expected peak parking demand for such a facility, assuming that it is an area without significant transit access? So, if you have transit access, then you have to make some adjustment to the rates which are given by ITE, because ITE rates are without the transit access. Transit means public transport. If you have public transport, then you need less parking. So you have to see how much is the percentage of people who will be using the cars. They will need the parking supply. So you have to keep in mind. But if it is without significant transit access, which is the case now, then we don't need to consider it. Okay, so it's a high-rise apartment building, so it's residential. So I'll go here. Okay, high-rise is here. And it is mentioned high-rise means what? Okay, so if you have a 3 floors, you cannot call it high-rise according to these standards. Okay, so now I can use average rate or I can use the equation. Okay, I have 600 units. If I want to use average rate, I will multiply 600 by this number, and I get 822 spaces. And if I'm using the equation, then I will put 600 here as x, and then I will be getting 754 spaces. So this is how you calculate the number of spaces needed for this high-rise apartment building. Okay, and you can see that the rates are different. Okay, in this case, as I already mentioned, that should consider the equation answer to be more accurate if you have this option available. Okay, parking generation is how many parking spaces or how much parking demand is generated by the facility. Okay, and it is based on peak hours, and you can use locally available rates. The only new thing here is that the parking space is not totally utilized, the parking area I mean. So there's always a 5 to 10% wastage or unoccupancy, non-occupancy. So people don't use certain parking spaces because they are not convenient. They are in the corner near the pillar, or they just feel the parking area is full and they don't waste their time in looking for that one parking space which could be unoccupied. Okay, so that space is empty, or sometimes people don't park in the proper manner in their designated space. So then you have unoccupied parking spaces. Okay, so this is considered 5 to 10%. So whenever you are calculating the parking demand, then have this 5 to 10% extra factor of adjustment to account for this wastage. Okay, let's consider office building, general office building, 50,000 square feet of space. What is the peak parking load expected to be at this facility? So office building, again, I will look for the particular land use. This is the land use. Office building, you can see this is medical, this is government. General is only this one. Okay, so I need a gross floor area. Okay, my floor area is 50,000, but the rate is given per 1,000 feet, so it will be 50. Okay, so the area will be 50,000 is 50 now. So I can calculate by average again, so 50 into 2.84, it gives me 142 spaces. And I can use the equation as well. Equation you can see is very accurate, 0.91 r square. I will put x as 50. Okay, so 2.51 into 50 plus 26, which gives me 152 spaces. Okay, so you can either provide 142 or 152 spaces in this case. Okay, then we have the concept of shared parking where multiple destinations are using the same area for their parking. So we have shopping centers now, it's a very common trend. We have a big shopping mall, shopping center, which includes restaurants, grocery stores, banks, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if you are going to provide a separate parking area for each of these shops or stores or whatever you have, then it will require a lot of space. Okay, so we have one parking area which will serve all these destinations, all these facilities at the same time. This is done keeping in mind that all these destinations will not require all the space at the same time. Okay, so you have a school and you have an office building as well. Okay, or you have uh, a school and a grocery store, for example. So that the peak hours for these facilities are different. So there's a very low chance that the school needs all the parking spaces required by them, and at the same time, the grocery store also needs all the spaces at the same time. So when you have a mix like this, then you can go for shared parking, which will be more efficient. Okay, you can use the shared parking uh, with some exclusive facility as well. So it's the same area, the common area. Okay, but then you say to a particular user, okay, these 10 spaces are fixed for you. Okay, or 10 spaces are fixed for you. Okay, so up to 10 spaces you will always find the place. Okay, so whatever happens, we have 10 spaces which will not be used by other facilities. This is in the same area, but it can be any 10 spaces. Okay, so when it gets uh, so if these are the only 10 spaces left in the area, then it will be for this particular facility. Okay, so it's like a quota system. And the other one is you have the facility and the area, and then you fix a particular space for that user or for that client or for that facility. So you say this is your space. Okay, nobody will use it. It's not like any one space, it's this particular space which is near the door or whatever. So you have seen fixed parking spaces for disabled people, for taxis, for trucks, delivery trucks, and so on and so forth. So this is in the same manner. Okay, so now you can see here they are giving which facilities can be combined together because of their different working hours, okay, or peak hours. So on weekdays, you have banks and public services, offices, park and ride facilities, which they have their peak hours. Evenings are for entertainment facilities. Weekends are for entertainment and religious facilities. So you can combine them because they will have peak demand in different times, in different days maybe. So this table gives you shared parking demand, okay, for shopping centers, and there are uh, five types of them, and they depend upon the area. Okay, their types depend upon the area. Strip means more than less than 30,000 square feet, and so on and so forth. And the only the average is given. There is no equation here. Okay, and how many studies they have done for getting this average for each type? This I mentioned here. Then, if your shopping center has less than 20 or up to 20% entertainment facilities, okay, like play area and gym and cinemas and so on, if it has up to 20%, you can use this table as well. So here they are considering again the area, okay, and what is the percentage of entertainment facilities in that uh, shopping center, okay, and again these are all average rates, and they are given for the 20th peak hour of the year. Okay, so they had like many values, okay, and they sorted them, and they didn't pick the highest value, they picked the top 20th value. Okay, so there are 19 more values which could be more than that, okay, which had more rates than this one, but they picked the one which is the 90th on the top. Okay, and we do it for the purpose of saving cost. We don't want to expand the facility too much just for a few hours of the year. Okay, it's not good in terms of investment. Okay, so consider a case where you have a regional shopping center at 1 million square feet land area, and it's anticipated that 15% of land area will be occupied by the entertainment facilities. How many parking spaces should be provided? And you can use both tables. Okay, like the first table is, this one is general, you can use it, okay, for any case, but this one is more specific, okay, which is that entertainment facilities should be 20% or less, which we have, so we can use both of them. If I use this one, then my parking rate will be 5.1, and if I use this one, okay, then I have to look at the area. Now why I'm using 5.1? Because super regional. Why super regional? Because my area is more than 800,000. Okay, so it's 1 million. The square feet area is 1 million. So I convert it into thousands. So 1 million divided by 1,000, it will be 1,000. Okay, so the area was 1 million. You convert it to 1,000, so it will be 1,000 thousands of square feet. 1,000 thousands of square feet. So you multiply this with 5.1, it will be 5,100 spaces. If you come here, okay, then again your area is somewhere here, okay, and you have 15% entertainment facilities, so here, okay, so now you will multiply the area in thousands of feet, which is 1,000, by this number, okay, so 1,000 divided by this will be 4,650. Okay, so this is what we have done. This is from the first table and this is from the second table. Okay, you have the option to take any one of them, but I believe that second one will be more accurate because it has more details. Okay, if you don't want to use the rates, then we have a general equation as well. This equation is general, like it does not depend upon any study. Okay, it's a general equation. Okay, so we have parking demand, which you want to calculate. The number of activity measured in appropriate units, the number of units for the activity, like we had the area in the previous example. Portion of destinations that occur at any one time. Okay, so from the total demand, what percentage comes in the peak hour basically. Percent destinations per unit of the activity, the rate. A is the proportion of people arriving by automobiles. O is average number of people per car. Okay, so how many people are using the car and how many travelers are coming in a car. And then we have the R factor, which is missing here. Okay, so R is basically, let me just reconfirm. Okay, so R is the number of people who are coming for this activity. Okay, number of people coming for the activity, okay, or the facility, because we are talking about shared, so it will be not one activity, so facility is more appropriate. Okay, moving on, let's consider a case where we have 1,000 square feet, 1 million square feet shopping center. So let's say it's the same center which we have considered in the previous example, but we are doing it using the rates. Now we don't use the rates. So we have like whatever number of people are coming in that area, 40% are for this particular shopping center. The others are for something else. Okay, so R is 60% because 40% are for other reasons. So 60% are for this shopping center. So R is 0.6. Then we have 70% who are coming by car. Out of this 60%, 70% are coming by car. This activity in the center, the shopping activity, is generating 45 people or person destinations, 45 people per square feet, per 1,000 square feet of the area. Okay, so the rate is 45. Okay, and out of the total, 20% are coming in the peak hour. So K is 0.2. and we have on average 1.5 people per car. Okay, some cars have two, some cars have three, some cars have one. If you take the average, it's 1.5. Okay, first thing we will do is calculate the area. Okay, so area total is 1 million. You convert it to number of units. So it's per 1000 square feet. So I will divide by 1000. Okay, so 1 million divided by 1000 gives me 1000 thousands of square feet. Okay, then you multiply everything, just divide by 1.5, which is the occupancy per car. Okay, so this will give you the parking demand required. Okay, so using this approach, you will get 2,520 spaces. Now, if you consider that this is the same shopping mall which we have used in the previous example. So in the previous example, we were getting the number of spaces you can see, in the vicinity of 5,000. But using this approach, we got less space, so it's more efficient. But the problem is it requires a lot of data. Okay, so you need you still need the area which you used in the previous approach as well, but then you need all these extra items as well. So it's more efficient but needs more data as well. So you need to keep in mind. Okay, and it's a logical approach because you are just multiplying the rate with the unit and then the percentage of people who are coming in that 1 hour and percentage of people are coming by car and number of people in one car. So it's a very logical approach. You don't need to have many studies for them. Okay, so we'll stop here, then we'll continue next time, inshallah.